Landon was fast and furious. He started walking before he turned a year old. He was riding a bike without training wheels by the time he was 3. He was racing bikes at the BMX track by kindergarten. He was on the move.
Wherever he directed his attention, it was usually 110%, whatever that thing was. You know, he was just a super sensitive kid. He loved to try to help other people.
From the time he was probably in early elementary school, he also started struggling more and more. Struggling to fit into this world, I think. I think the world was just big and loud for him, and maybe it was almost like he was trying to match that intensity. And there was so much hurt going on the inside that he just struggled with himself and who he was and where he fit in. And so there was just this duality to him.
So we were aware of it really early, and I think with my wife's medical background, I think she was much more attuned to picking up on those things. And so the good news is I think for earlier in his childhood, we were able to stay ahead of it quite a bit.
But he continued to struggle more and more. He struggled academically. He started to struggle with depression and anxiety. And then at some point it became very clear to me that he had bipolar disorder. And nobody would diagnose him, which means he couldn't get treatment. And so that struggle became bigger and bigger for him. And finally, lacking sufficient treatment, he started treating it himself. He started using substances, I think, to numb out what was happening. Things went downhill pretty quickly once he started self-treating his mental illness with substances. Within a year, he had an overdose. He ended up in the hospital. A few months after that, he went to a wilderness treatment program. Landon felt so at home there. He was an Eagle Scout. He grew up camping and outdoors, and he knew how to do it. He knew how to create a shelter with a tarp. He knew how to start fires. So he was really at home, and it was such an amazing reset for him. He was in wilderness treatment for 76 days. And within that time, we really felt like we saw our son emerging again. And then after wilderness, he went to a residential treatment program where he spent about 8 or 9 months there. And so by the time he graduated from his treatment program in August of 22, the therapists were all telling us that this is the kid that's going to make it. He was such an exemplary student and community member. And so he moved home after graduating high school an entire year early. He enrolled at Montana State University and started college a year early. And he found a new group of friends. He was devoted to the idea of getting his degree in psychology and then going on for additional training so that he could open up a program for boys like him. And then he died by suicide 3 months after he got home. After Landon died and people started reaching out to us, and the thing we would hear over and over again was what a bright light he was for everybody else. People who are struggling, he would set time aside to be with them, to support them. Landon first started learning the guitar when he was in wilderness, and then when he went to his residential treatment program, he told us, Mom and Dad, I really liked learning this. Do you think maybe I could continue learning? Could I maybe take guitar lessons? And so we set him up with guitar lessons where he was down in Utah. Within 7 months of starting to take lessons, he was writing his own songs, he was producing his own music. And he really turned to that as a form of self-regulation, so that when he would start feeling anxious or depressed or self-doubting, he would go get his guitar and he'd spend hours, and that was a way that he could calm himself, that wasn't using substances to quiet the anger or the angst that was going on inside.
But it felt cold and clear. I wonder why we do this to ourselves. But remember me like an old Polaroid.
At some point I said to myself, I can sit here and be really angry that the system didn't work for him, and that the system was not sufficiently adequate. I can sit here and be angry about that, or we can find a way to continue Landon's work and do so by helping fill the gaps in the system. And so the idea of the scholarship is to help people who are interested in pursuing careers in mental health care get that degree, so that they can get out there and start increasing the volume of providers in this area, because the amount of mental health care services compared to the size of our population here, there's a huge mismatch.
I think the scholarship that we're putting together through Montana Community Foundation is definitely a way to honor him in a really formal way each year, because we do want his intent of what he wanted to do, which was get into helping other kids that were in a similar situation as him.
This scholarship is about helping people find the courage to ask for help, and it's about finding the people that know the struggle, that in some cases maybe have firsthand dealt with the struggle and are taking steps to rise above it, so much so that they can be truly empathetic when someday they make their way out into the professional world as a counselor, as a therapist, as a psychiatrist, as a addictions counselor, and provide that same kind of care that maybe they had received previously. And so this is about community. The scholarship is about community. This legacy of honoring Landon, it's about community and the importance of people feeling connected.